It's time to start working on the nursery. Looking around the room, you can tell there is a lot to do, so let's get to it. The molding and light fixture are old and outdated, and the off-white color needs to change. The boss lady and I want this nursery to be cool and exciting, so that's what we're gonna do. And I'm taking this nursery to the next level, all the way to space. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. More on that a little bit later. I always imagined doing a big wall mural for my kids' nursery, assuming it would be Peter Pan related, but that's just too obvious. When we decided on a space theme, the boss lady suggested painting a mural on the ceiling for stars or planets or something like that. If you've ever seen a long exposure Milky Way Galaxy photo, you know that they're just mesmerizing. So I'm taking a leap of faith and attempting to paint that as a mural on the ceiling. I spent quite a bit of time looking at so many pictures of the Milky Way, analyzing colors, looking at shapes, relative sizes, key details. I carefully picked out the colors for this mural. I compared so many paint swatches to make the final decisions. So here's a list of the 12 colors that it took to make this galaxy come to life. I wanted vibrant colors to make it bright and exciting to look at. I laid down some tarps to protect the floor and got to work. This molding had to go. It's got this weird castle shape to it. It's also painted with oil-based paint, so painting over it with latex paint will not last. I ran a razor blade along the edges before pulling off the molding to minimize the amount of repairs needed later. Before demoing the light, I turned off the breaker so there's no shocking surprises. The light came apart relatively easily, but the molded doily left some weird residue stuck to the ceiling. It took a bit of time getting all the stuff off and smoothed out, but it's just something that's gotta get done. The new crown molding will be smaller than the old stuff, so I used an orbital sander to smooth out the walls and ceiling and get rid of any gunk from the demo. Then I used some quick drying joint compound to fill in any holes and make it even cleaner looking. All the prep work is done, so time to start painting. I'm starting on the outside and working my way in. The shape of the colorful cluster of the Milky Way will be a slight diagonal across the room, so the background colors leading to it will be roughly parallel. Putting the second color up meant that I was in it. There's no going back now. I continued putting up the rest of the colors, making it to the middle and reversing the colors to go back to dark. The general background is done, and now it's time to blend. There were a few moments through this whole project where I was discouraged and doubtful that it wouldn't turn out the way I'd hoped, but nevertheless, I persisted and kept adding paint. I took the two colors and blended them together to make a middle color, then used that new color to blend the seam. This first blend wasn't difficult because the colors were quite similar. The next blend was between Very Navy and Admiral Blue. It takes a bit of time and finesse to make the transition from one color to the next to be fluid and not forced. If it's choppy, it'll look bad, but the idea is for the entire ceiling to be a smooth gradient. This last blend was the hardest to make it look good because the color change is so drastic. However, This area will be layered over multiple times with the other colors, so I'm not too concerned. It's all part of the process. The foundation is set, and now it's time to start adding detail and bringing this whole thing to life. These are the 3 pictures that I kept handy as reference through this whole process. I continually glanced at them to keep the concept fresh in my mind and to make sure I wasn't overdoing it as I added colors and details. There's a bright glow that appears across the entire Milky Way. That is emulated here. Various areas have shades of orange, so I use this shade to create those across the ceiling. There'll be a lot of overlapping as I add these colors. It'll add depth and dimension as I work to create the final product. Just like the orange, there's suggestions of this blushy red color. Both of these are vibrant and make the ceiling pop. There are multiple shades of purple that appear. I honed it down to a light, medium, and dark color. I started with the medium and added quite a bit, using the pictures to influence the organic shapes. It's important to not overdo it, but also not worry about it too much because I can just paint over it again if I don't like it. Next, I added light purple for the bright spots in the map. This highlights various areas to make it pop. The final shade of purple adds shadows and dark spots. Even more detail is shown, and one of the prominent shapes that is present in all of the pictures is recreated here. So now there's some harsh lines between the shades of purple. I used the pearly white to blend those seams and add some extra highlights. Next, I added some very light red and orange spots to further blend the purple and make up for some of the colors that were covered. It's a bit hard to know what's missing because once all the stars are added, it'll make a significant difference to the overall look. And I kind of need to have this whole thing set because it just gets complicated to try and make changes after adding the stars. After getting a second opinion from the boss lady, she suggested I add more pearly white outwards to make it look more like the reference pictures. I'm content, and more importantly, the boss lady is content with how it looks so far. Before adding all the stars, I'd like to add Easter eggs to add some fun flair to the ceiling. It's all about the details. The final step of painting is to add all the little stars. It took a while, and there are approximately 8 million little dots in the ceiling. There were suggestions of flicking paint to get this effect using a brush or toothbrush, but tests show that it didn't look good. And it also could have made a mess on the floor, and potentially tracked through the house. I just buckled down and used a brush to make individual dots. Different spacing, different size dots, and different amounts of paint on the brush gave it the texture that I had hoped to have. Now that all the painting was done, it was time to add a new light. I had searched around to find something fun and on topic, and finally found this Saturn LED light. This thing is pretty cool because it has a remote that allows you to change the color and brightness, which will be great for those inevitable late nights. I'll leave a link for it down below. And now, this nursery has the coolest ceiling ever. And my kid will get to sleep under the stars every night. In between projects, I like to stay productive by branching out and learning something new. That's why I'm proud to partner with Skillshare, a place where you can learn about a multitude of topics such as photography, web development, and animation. I just took Dennis Schrader's class, DSLR Filmmaking for Beginners. He goes over so many things, such as ISO, aperture, shutter speed, and how to use all the features of your camera collectively to create better footage. Up until this point, I pretty much just pointed my camera and hit record, but there's so much more potential than that. And Dennis's class is helping me create better videos for you to watch. There's so many great options on Skillshare, and they're always launching new classes. You can start learning new skills today with a 1-month free trial by being one of the first 1,000 to use the link in the description. This may be the most exciting and unique element for the nursery, but all the things left to come are important to make it complete. Okay, that's it for now. See ya.